All right, so today we're going to dive into Spotify Technology,
Yeah.
ticker symbol SPOB.
True T. Yep.
And we got a whole bunch of information here
Yeah.
as of March 31st, 2025, so pretty up to date.
Very much so.
We got a stock analysis page here,
Okay.
and looks like it's got like an overview.
Yeah.
A recent earnings review from Q4 2024.
All right.
Some key insights from the Q4 2024 earnings call.
Guess that's good.
Analyst ratings, historical financials.
Yep.
And then some recent press releases too.
Lots to cover.
Yeah. So I guess today's mission is to kind of like go through all this stuff.
Yeah.
Try to pull out the most important information.
Absolutely.
And give kind of like a focused understanding of Spotify's, like current financial health and what the future might hold for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So jumping right into it.
Let's do it.
Looks like the stock price as of March 31st, 2025 is $561.16.
Yeah.
It's down 3.28% for the day.
A little bit of a dip.
Yeah. But looking at the 52-week range,
Okay.
260.8 to 652.628.
Wow. So that's
Quite a range.
that's huge. Yeah.
Big swings.
So the report also gives a fair value estimate
Okay.
of 486.36.
Which suggests maybe it's currently a little overvalued.
Potentially. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then looking at the average price target from analysts,
Okay.
it's 513.3s.
All right. So a little bit lower than the current price.
Yeah, and this is over the last 6 months.
Gotcha.
But we do see some differing opinions.
Okay. Sure.
Redburn Partners has a neutral stance at 545.
Okay.
UBS is way up there at 700.
Wow.
And they raised that.
Okay.
Morgan Stanley raised theirs to 550.
Right.
And Canaccord Genuity raised to 560.
So a real mix of viewpoints there.
Yeah. Why do you think
Yeah.
UBS is so bullish on them?
Yeah, that's a big jump up to 700.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're seeing something that others aren't in terms of like subscriber growth
Right.
or their expansion into these new content areas.
Yeah. Like video podcasts and audiobooks.
Yeah, maybe they think that's going to
Really take off.
really take off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure.
That's
but
sure.
Definitely interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess, speaking of performance,
Yeah.
let's look at their actual recent results.
Yeah.
So Q4 2024, they're reporting it as exceptional.
Okay.
And
They're saying.
they actually achieved their first full year of profitability,
Oh, wow.
which is a big milestone.
Yeah, that's huge.
Absolutely.
So looking at the specific numbers,
Okay.
it looks like they had 35 million new monthly active users,
Wow.
which brings the total up to 675 million.
Okay.
And they say that was the best Q4 ever.
Best Q4 ever. So
Yeah.
really strong growth there.
Yeah, and then 11 million new subscribers,
All right.
totaling 263 million,
Okay.
which was their second highest quarter ever for subscriber additions.
Second highest. So still really impressive.
And revenue hit 4.2 billion euros,
All right.
17% year-over-year growth
Yeah.
in constant currency.
Right. So adjusting for those currency fluctuations to get a
Yeah.
clearer picture.
Yeah, and a gross margin of 32.2%, which was a record.
Wow. Okay. So not just growing revenue, but also becoming more profitable.
Right.
That's impressive.
Yeah, 477 million euros in operating income
Right.
and 877 million in free cash flow.
So really strong across the board
Yeah.
financially.
So what do you think was driving this performance?
Where they point to a few key factors.
Okay.
Product improvements.
Okay.
Especially in video and audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like those are resonating with users.
Yeah.
They also had their Wrapped campaign, which was a big success.
Yeah.
Over 245 million users engaged with that.
Wow.
And of course, just their ongoing platform innovations.
Yeah.
They're constantly improving the user experience.
Yeah. So what about their guidance?
Okay, so for Q1 2025, they're expecting 678 million monthly active users,
Okay.
265 million subscribers,
Right.
and revenue of 4.2 billion euros.
So pretty much in line with
Consistent with Q4.
Q4.
Yeah.
So continued growth.
Mm-hmm.
They are expecting the gross margin to be about 31.5%,
Okay.
which is a little lower than Q4, but still healthy.
Right.
And then operating income of 548 million euros,
Okay.
which is actually higher than Q4.
Interesting.
And for the full year 2025, they expect continued healthy growth in subscribers.
Okay.
And they specifically talk about focusing on customer quality and LTV improvements.
So like high-value subscribers who are more likely to stick around.
Exactly. Yeah, they want to make sure they're bringing in the right kind of customers.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they also expect both gross and operating margins to keep improving throughout 2025.
Okay.
Although they do say the rate of improvement might moderate compared to 2024.
Okay, so maybe not as dramatic as those jumps we saw last year.
Right, exactly. But still
Moving in the right direction.
positive overall.
So they mentioned a year of accelerated execution.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly? So basically, they're going to be focusing on accelerating product improvements and really doubling down on the music experience.
Yeah.
So making sure that core offering is as strong as possible.
Makes sense.
But it also includes further expansion into video content. They've got over 330,000 video podcasts now.
Wow.
And they said that 270 million users has streamed video content on the platform.
Okay, so people are definitely engaging with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And they even launched a Spotify partner program specifically for video podcasters.
Yeah, so they're really investing in that area.
Yeah.
And I think it's smart because it gives them another way to compete with platforms like YouTube.
Right.
And attract even more creators.
And they're doing the ad-free podcasts for premium subscribers in some markets.
Yeah, that's a really interesting move.
Yeah.
Because it could make that premium subscription even more appealing.
Yeah.
Especially for people who really hate ads.
Right.
They're also experimenting with educational content.
Okay.
They're doing some testing in the UK. And they said the initial results have been positive.
Interesting.
Millions of users have engaged with that content.
So it seems like they're kind of like looking beyond just music
Yeah.
to keep users engaged.
Yeah, they want to be a one-stop shop for audio and video entertainment.
Yeah. So what about their financial strategy?
Okay, so right now, their priority is reinvesting capital back into the business,
Good.
Specifically music video, and they even mention a potential superfan tier.
Okay.
So they're focused on growth and innovation.
Gotcha.
They haven't ruled out returning capital to shareholders down the line,
Okay.
but for now, it's all about reinvestment.
Okay, so I guess like stepping back a bit.
Yeah.
What are some of the like key strengths?
Okay, well, their first mover advantage is huge. They were really early to the streaming game.
Yeah.
And they've built this massive engaged user base.
Right.
I mean, 406 million monthly active users and 180 million premium subscribers as of the end of 2021.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. And they've been diversifying into podcasts,
Yeah.
audiobooks, video.
Absolutely. And that diversification is key. It helps them mitigate risk.
Right.
If one area isn't performing as well, they have others to fall back on.
And they have huge potential for advertising revenue growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just haven't fully realized it yet.
Not yet, but they're working on improving their programmatic advertising capabilities. And they expect to see significant improvement starting in 2026.
Okay, so that's something to watch.
Definitely.
And overall, their commitment to long-term growth through innovation.
Yeah, that's crucial in this industry.
Yeah.
You have to constantly be evolving and adapting.
Yeah, and the potential for premium subscription price increases down the line.
Yeah, that's always an option,
Yeah.
especially with such a strong subscriber base.
Right.
But of course, there are also risks and challenges.
Right.
Competition is still intense,
Yeah.
especially in those developing markets.
Yeah.
And while the exit of one competitor did help, it's still a crowded space.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that they'll be able to achieve that huge advertising revenue growth they're aiming for.
True. It's definitely ambitious.
Yeah.
And they also have to manage things like subscription churn and price sensitivity.
Right.
If they raise prices too much, people might start canceling.
Yeah.
And there's the ongoing issue of family plan sharing,
Right.
which is cutting into their potential revenue.
Yeah.
They need to find a way to address that.
Yeah, and their dependence on those content licensing agreements.
Yeah, those are crucial.
Yeah.
Because they impact their content costs and profitability.
Right.
And if they can't negotiate favorable terms, it could hurt their bottom line.
Yeah, and we did talk about that share price being above the fair value estimate.
Right. That suggests a potential risk of a price correction.
Yeah. So, I guess to kind of like wrap things up for the listener,
Yeah.
what are the main takeaways from this deep dive into Spotify?
So they've shown strong recent performance, especially in Q4 2024. And their future outlook is positive. It's driven by that consistent subscriber growth and their expansion to new content formats.
Right.
But that current valuation does warrant some caution.
Right.
And investors should keep a close eye on competition and their ability to grow that advertising revenue.
So for you, the learner,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like Spotify's in a good spot.
Yeah,
But like any investment, there are always risks.
absolutely.
So do your research
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and make informed decisions.
that's the key takeaway.
Yeah. So here's something interesting to think about.
Okay.
As Spotify keeps pushing into video and they're experimenting with things like education,
Yeah.
how do you think that's going to change the competitive landscape?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because it means they're not just competing with music streaming services anymore.
Right.
They're potentially going up against platforms like YouTube and even educational platforms.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that.
Yeah, for sure.
And what new challenges and opportunities it brings.
Well, hey, if you enjoyed this focused analysis of Spotify,
Yeah.
make sure you subscribe to the channel.
Absolutely.
Hit that bell icon.
So you don't miss any future deep dives.
Yeah, and your support really helps us bring you more of these in-depth explorations.
We appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was.
All right, see ya.